Today we're going to be talking about money, values, and influences. My name is Josh Rincon. I am the program director here at Avance Latino, and I'm excited to bring you this workshop to all of you. Before we start, be sure to subscribe, to share this with your friends and family, because today's topic is the first of many topics that we'll be covering in 2023, but it's a very, very important. And being able to understand anything else, whether it's investing, budgeting, anything else, we first have to dive deep and look at our money, values, and influences. The things that influence us, our values, all those things that help us make those financial decisions in our lives. And it's important to understand why we do what we do. So that's what we're going to talk about today: money, values, and influences. Just like that picture shows right here, a family, right? Because at the core of everyone's life is family, love, and all that, right? So money, values, and influences. Section 1, we're going to cover values and money. Let's talk about values and money. So the key takeaway for this section is going to be understanding your values can help you set achievable financial goals, because ultimately we want you guys to set up financial goals, whether it's start investing, buying a house, saving money to pay for your college education for yourself or maybe for your kids. Whatever financial goals you might have, we want you to understand your values, because those make a huge impact on how you make financial decisions, for the good or the bad, right? Let's talk about values. I think that's something that pops out, the first thing that pops out when we talk about money, values, and influences. What are values? Values are, people, things, and places that are important to you and guide how you make decisions, regardless if it's finances or not. Values influence the decisions we make. How do we dress? The music that we listen to, the vacation spots that we end up choosing, where we want to live, where we end up working. All those decisions, all those things are goal based off of our values. And our values shape our life. They shape everything who we are, and we inherit our values from many different ways. We'll talk about that later, but values shape how you prioritize two different things: your time and your money, which money comes and goes, still important. Money buys things. It helps you be generous. Money is important, but more than money, greater importance than money is your time. Essentially, time is money, and for some people, right? But time is everything. Time is the most biggest asset that you have as a person, regardless of how much money you have. If you're 90 years old and you have $1 million, you only have a little time to spend that money, right? But if you're 20 years old with $1 million, you see the difference that time plays a factor. It's a huge, huge factor in our everyday lives, and it shapes a lot of the things, a lot of the decisions that we take, depending on how much time we have. But when we go back to our values shape how we prioritize our time and our money. And there's a reason why we're going to be talking about all this before we dive deep and start talking about other more complex topics like taxes, investing, budgeting, all those, starting a business, entrepreneurship, all those important things we can cover. We must first understand this. So what contributes to how your values get formed? I wrote down a couple of examples right here. A couple of examples of what contributes of how your values get formed. Think for a second. What are those things? Things that come to my mind right now, what I wrote down is your family, first and foremost. Where you grew up, your family is a lot of the values that you grew up in your family, whether you grew up in a single parent household or you had both parents or you didn't have any of your parents, but you had a guardian, you still picked up some of their values. If they were the type of people that love to save money, most likely you'd be a money saver. Or if they're the type of people that save too much money, they were super, super cheap with everything, maybe you learn from them and you're like, I'll save money, but not too much. So there's like pros and cons to everything that we learn from our family, right? Our community of faith, if you attend church or anything like that, school shapes your values. Definitely high school and college, which are two very, very important times in our life, because it really shapes us to the person that we're going to end up being in the future husband, future wife, future father, future business owner, whatever. Friends which in or outside of school make a huge impact and contributes into how your values get formed. Media, social media, Instagram, TikTok, all of those. Community where you grew up plays a huge factor. The culture you come from, whether you're Latino or not, for example, and your workplace. Your workplace plays a huge role and contributes to your values and how they get formed. So let's do a little exercise. Let's talk about what are some people, things, and places that matter to you? And let's think about that for a second, because those are the values that you might have. For example, out of those things that you think about, the people, things, and places that matter really to you, this or that, whatever those things might be, What values come from that? Is it faith? Is it family? Is it independence? Is it culture, traditions, creativity, self-expression, respect for and from others, social recognition or status? Whatever those things might be, what are those things? At the end of the day, you're going to start being able to break down what are your values, what type of person are you? Because at the end of the day, every single person has different values. Some have values more towards, connected towards their faith. Others don't. So let's talk about that. Let's dive deep and look at our values. Because when you understand your values, you're going to be able to start connecting two and two, like, oh, so that's why I don't save my money. Oh, so that's why I like to spend my money. Or that's why I love to invest my money. You start seeing how your values plays a huge factor in when you make financial decisions. Let's talk about an example. I like this example here. It's between Valentina and Isaiah. It's a really great example, and I don't want to give too much information. Let's just read it. So it says, Valentina and Isaiah recently received their tax return and can't agree how to use it. Valentina put herself through college by working 30 hours a week on top of a full course load. She still has some student loans that she needs to pay. Her mother is struggling to make ends meet, and Valentina would like to give her mother most of their tax return to use as a security deposit to move into a new apartment. Her mother. She wants to use the rest to continue paying down her student loan debt. Now, that's Valentina. She wants to give part of her tax return, part of her and her husband's tax return, not just hers, towards her mom to help her to get a new apartment and to pay down her student loan debt. Now, let's pause. Think about it for a second. Who's right here? Is it Valentina? Let's read Isaiah, what he wants to do with the money now. Isaiah's parents helped him while he was in college with his expenses, and because they saved a lot of money over the years. He graduated with minimal loans and paid them in a few years before him and Valentina met. He would like to put most of their tax refund into a savings account they've set up for their 3 children. He wants to use the rest to take a family vacation. He wants to spend quality time with his family. Now, pause for a second and think about Isaiah. Is Isaiah making a right financial decision? Who's right in this scenario? Is it Valentina or Isaiah? Before I move forward, comment down below. Who is right? Who do you agree with more? Is it Isaiah or is it Valentina? And why? Let me know why. I'm curious to know why you think we should do what Valentina wants, or they should do what Isaiah wants. Think about it for a second. Okay, cool. Now, let me tell you, no one's wrong. They're both right. And here's the thing. Our values really affect our financial choices. Now, when you look at Isaiah and Valentina, Isaiah, you can say he grew up in a way more privileged in the sense where his parents were able to pay for his college, and he didn't have any college debt, right? He had both parents. We don't know if Valentina had a father figure in her life, but it seems like she grew up with a single mother who had to work really hard. So then she had to get student loans and different situations. So right off the bat, we can already see like how that can affect the financial choices that they make. So why are they both not wrong and they're both right? Because Valentina wants to help her mom. There's nothing wrong with helping her mom and paying off her debt. And there's nothing wrong with Isaiah wanting to put money in their savings for the kids and spend quality time with his family. So at the end of the day, personally, if this was me with my spouse, what I would say is, why don't we just divide it equally? Let's put some money for our kids. Let's help out your mom a little. Let's pay down your debt. And let's spend some quality time as a family. Just because I think all 4 reasons are good reasons, right? But again, one of the ones that I would probably look at is about the mom. Let's look about why the mom needs to move into a new apartment. Because if it's just because she has bad habits, then maybe let's not feed into those bad habits. Let's try to help her. Let's try to go over a budget with her or something, right? Before we just give her money. And what if the same thing happens in the new apartment? But besides that, they're both right, because they both want to help one of them wants to help her mom and pay off their debt. The other one wants to spend quality time and put money into a savings account for their children. So you can see how, for some people watching, when some of you guys watching might think, but no, Valentina's right, or the people watching, Isaiah's right. But at the end of the day, they're both correct. Now, if you want to, go more, in depth and talk about numbers, well, let's look at the interest rate on this debt, and let's look at the savings account. Let's look, obviously you can go more in depth, but in general, both of them are right, because they both want to help. They both have different values because they both grew up different. But that doesn't mean that one of them is right, the other one is wrong. And it's important to understand this because this is a root cause where we see this is a whole other topic where in relationships, a lot of couples fight over money because just like Valentina and Isaiah, they have two different mindsets of what they want to do with their savings or how they want to invest their money, how they want to spend it. And we don't realize that we come from different backgrounds. We have different values, right? So that was section one. Section one was all about values and money. And the key takeaway is understanding your values can help you set achievable financial goals. Now, let's talk about goals and money. I know you might, we just started 2023. You might have some life goals. You want to, cut down a few pounds. You want to lose some weight. You want to do, start this, start that. But let's start specifically on some financial goals that comes with money, right? A key takeaway for section two is going to be setting smart goals. And we'll dive in deep what that means. Helps you achieve your hopes and dreams for the future by providing a realistic plan to follow. Now, what are goals? Let's talk about it for a second. What kind of future do you want? That's a question. That's a good question to ask yourself. These are your hopes or dreams. Where do you see yourself, by 2024, 2025, 2030, right? These are some goals are your desired results that you want to see in your life. I want to lose this much weight. I want to have $100,000 saved. I want to buy a house within 3 years, whatever, right? When you're setting goals, you want to prioritize how you use your money, but also you want to measure and track progress. Those are two very important things, right? So let's talk about setting smart goals. What is a smart goal? It's not just a smart goal just in general, but there's a breakdown of how a goal should be. And the S in SMART stands for specific. The M stands for measurable. The A stands for action oriented. The R stands for reachable. And the T stands for time bound. Now, SMART goals, when it comes to specific, these are some questions you want to ask yourself when you're setting up goals for this year. What do I want to accomplish? Why is this important to me? Is this something I really want? Let's talk about buying a house. What do I want to accomplish? I want to buy a house. Why is this important to me? Because I don't want to rent anymore. I want to start building wealth, and eventually I want to pass this house on to my children, generational wealth. Is this something I really want? Yes, I want to buy a house. I want somewhere to live in. I want some more privacy. I don't want to be in an apartment no more, right? It's just an example. Now the M, measurable. How much? A $500,000 house. How many? One. How will I know when I've met my goal? When I get the keys to my house, right? Action oriented. What specific actions do I need to complete in order to meet this goal? I need to save for a 20% down payment, or depending if I get a different type of loan, like an FHA loan or a conventional loan, I might need to save 5 to 10%. But let's just say we save 10% of the purchase cost, which is, let's say, $50,000, because $50,000 is 10% of $500,000 for a home. This is just an example. So how much, what specific actions do I need to complete in order to meet this goal? I need to save $50,000 from now to the end of the year, hypothetically. The last one, reachable. Is this goal something I can reach? If I only make $50,000 a year, will I be able to save $50,000 in 1 year? Probably not, because $50,000 gross after taxes is probably like 35. So it would be impossible to save 50,000 unless I already have $45,000 and all I need is 5,000 more. Then yeah, that's definitely reachable. So it's important to make sure that your goal is reachable. If it's something that just like if you're making 50,000 a year and your goal is to save 50,000 that year, it's not reachable unless you somehow have different sources of income, not just your full-time job, but you start a side hustle, you do other stuff, then it become more reachable. But even then, you want to make it reachable. The last one is going to be time bound. When will I reach this goal? Within 1 year. So my SMART goal is I want to buy a $500,000 house by the end of 2023, and I will need a $50,000 saved up before the year ends to put as a down payment on this house. Something like that, right? This is just an example, but a lot of times what people do, instead of doing a SMART goal, they just say, I want to buy a house this year. But they don't really dive deep and say how much money they need saved. What type of house do they want? Do they want a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom? Where do they want to live? Like, all those details matter, because at the end of the day, if you don't, it's just going to be a goal. It's just going to be a dream in your head. But a goal needs to be something you can write down. You can put the numbers. It needs to be something that's a SMART goal. Specific, measurable, action-oriented, reachable, and time-bound. Now that we covered SMART goals, Let's take a second, take a moment to write down some smart goals for yourself, for your life. Think about it for a second. What are some smart goals that you have? And make sure when you're writing this down, you could put a checklist to the right and make sure that you check it off. Is it specific? Is it measurable? Is it action oriented? Is it reachable? And is it time bound? Once you set these goals and you start making actual smart goals, you will start seeing real results. Because a lot of times, like I said, we start a new year, we have goals, we're writing down, but we don't actually follow through because maybe they weren't reachable. Maybe we didn't have any action, or it wasn't action oriented. It wasn't measurable at all. We weren't specific enough. I just want to buy a house. Where? There's so many options. You want to buy a townhouse? Do you want to buy a regular house? Do you want to buy a condo? Like, what do you want to buy? What do you want to buy? Right? Ask yourself. Those are very, very important. So we just covered smart goals, money goals, and goals with money, right? Setting smart goals is very important. As we dive deep on learning about our values and money, we can understand, okay, now I know how or why I'm making some financial decisions. Let's talk about, before we make those financial goals or decisions, how do we set good goals, which are smart goals, when they're specific, measurable, action oriented, reachable, and time bound. The last section is going to be external influences. Let's look at some influences that influence or impact the financial choices or decisions we take. The key takeaway is going to be external influences impact financial choices, and you should use strategies to stay focused on your goals. All right. Influences on choices about money. It's a cool picture here, but it's so true how social media, advertisements, celebrities, peers, friends impact and influence. These are external influences that influence your choices on money. For example, a celebrity goes out and buys a Peloton, something to work out, posts about it on Instagram, TikTok or whatever. What happens? A bunch of their followers, oh, I want to buy a Peloton too. They buy it. They get influenced. It's an external factor because it's not a value that they grew up because, their parents have Pelotons or anything. No, it's a celebrity. It's an external factor. So we have to look about that too. We just looked at values and how where we grew up and our workplace impacts the financial decisions. But now let's zoom out. That was internal factors. Now let's look at external factors, which are, social media, celebrities, advertisements. When you're scrolling through Instagram or TikTok, you get hit with a bunch of ads. I'll literally be talking about something on my phone and I start seeing ads about it, right? So there's definitely external influences, and they influence the money choices that you make. Because why is it that all these advertisements, our advertisers are putting billions and billions of dollars? They're not just throwing it out there because they're wasting money, because people are literally buying these things. They're making an influence on people's decisions when it comes to money. Now, influences can be productive or they can be unproductive. They can be productive because they can help you achieve your goals. Sometimes outside influences can be good, but another times they can be unproductive because they get in your way. For example, this workshop is a great influence because you're learning about money, values, and influences. You're learning how your influences, your values impact how you make financial decisions, right? But they can also be unproductive when you start talking to someone about money and they say, spend all your money, don't save it. You're going to die soon. Who cares about it, right? Spend it all. Then it's going to impact you in a negative way because you're not going to save for retirement. You're not going to be generous and give back, whatever. Let's go to the next one. Social pressure in advertising. There is so much social pressure out there to have the newest car, a nice place where you're living, whether it's an apartment or a house, the clothes, the designer clothes. Why? Because in the US, we've gotten so accustomed to have this consumeristic mindset where we need to buy, consume. Black Friday, Christmas, Thanksgiving, buy, gifts. All these things, which always goes back to our values and influences, right? But there's so much pressure in society to put on a certain image, right? And it's important that we realize that it's human nature to want what others have, right? Advertisers spend money to influence how we spend our money. They spend money to influence how we spend our money, right? And then the last one, impulse purchases can make it harder to achieve goals. Walking down the mall, you see something you like, impulse buy. Don't even walk in the mall. Trust me, you walk in the mall, you're gonna leave with something. You're gonna buy something, whether it's clothes or every time I go to the mall, I like to get like maybe not clothes, but more like the food stuff, because they always have like the good ice cream. They have the good pretzels. So it's like, man, like I'm not fulfilling my goals when it comes to my diet and exercise when I go to the mall, because I'm not buying the clothes, but I'm buying the sweets, the treats, and all that stuff, because they got some good stuff in there, right? Now, Here's some strategies that can help you for staying focused on your goals. So we talked about values and influences. We talked about SMART goals. Now let's talk about how we can stay on track on those goals. So it's important to recognize the tactics used by advertisers. Notice when and where you're being tempted when to do an impulse buy or whatever it is. Control your environment, super important, and build in a pause. So let's talk about this strategy right here, which is an amazing strategy. You might get scared. You might not buy anything ever again after doing this one. So calculate the hours or days an item is worth. Think about your hourly wage, divide the cost of the item by your hourly wage. Now you heard that, probably like, what does that mean? Let's look at this picture. I'm more of a visual learner too. So if you look at this picture, it says divide the cost of the item by your hourly wage. Let's just say that you make $20 an hour and you just bought a brand new Gucci purse. Let's just say it's $1,000. You make $20 an hour. That means it took you 50 hours of your life. Think about it. When you start seeing your purchases like this, it took you it didn't take you $1,000. It took you 50 hours of your life. You exchanged 50 hours of your life to get this purse. So when you start seeing things like that, your purchases, I know that's going to impact how you purchase things. I know there's things like opportunity costs and stuff like that, but let's just talk about like when you're buying something at the store. When you buy something at the store and you look at it, when you start dividing that price by your hourly wage, maybe you'll start realizing maybe it's not worth it. 50 hours of my life for a purse when I could have spent 50 hours with my family. You know, $1,000 goes a long way. You could do a vacation. You know, those 50 hours, I'd rather exchange it for me personally instead of a purse on a vacation with family or loved ones because it's more meaningful to me. Now, I'm not saying don't spend your money at all, but think about how you're spending your money so you can make better decisions and also so you can stay on track on your goals. If you have a goal of, you know, saving for a house, when you start calculating how much it costs you to really buy that purse or that toy or that car, even that car, which is a huge purchase, which is one of the biggest factors why people don't buy houses is because of car payments. You're going to start to realize, wow, maybe I shouldn't have bought that car or that purse or whatever. So that way you can be on track with your goals. Now, the next one is to set yourself up for success is control your environment. Stick to a list when you go shopping. Whenever you guys go shopping, whether it's for groceries or shopping like as in clothes. Let's talk about groceries. Every time I go grocery shopping, I don't know what's at home and I'm like, I don't know. I always buy stuff that I already had at home. Because I didn't have a list, I wasn't prepared. When I prepare myself and I know what I need to buy, I have a list or I have it in my mind already, the things that I already have and I know what I need, I end up spending a whole lot less. Kind of like this says here, if it's not on the list, it doesn't exist. You shouldn't just be buying things just because. I understand maybe you see something at the store, grocery store, you wanted to add and you're like, oh, I didn't think about it. But a lot of times I made it the mistake where I would just buy it. Like, I think I need this. I think I need eggs and milk. I get home, I already had eggs and milk. And what happens a couple of days later? They go rotten. I didn't need it all. I have to throw it away. That's money wasted. So even the little things, you could be wasting money on the little things, and it's important. This is going to help you stay on track so you can complete your goals, right? Staying focused on your goals. These are a couple of questions. This is a little activity that you can do. When and where, ask yourself this. When and where do I feel like making an impulse purchase? Do you find yourself making impulse purchases online or at the mall? If you're doing it online, then exit the app, close it. Don't shop online anymore. Maybe go in person. What are some changes I can make to my environment to block unproductive messages or resist impulse spending? So I just talked about it. If you're a big online spender, then delete the app. If you're always buying stuff on Amazon, then just fast from it. Take a little break from it. Delete the app. Don't buy stuff anymore. Take a little break. What are some changes I can make to build in a pause to give me time to think through a purchase? Replace bad habits with good habits. If you're always online shopping, replace that time wasted with going to exercise, spend time with family, going and watching a movie. I know, doing so many other things, watch Netflix, whatever you want, but just replace it with good habits or anything else, watch a documentary, watch a workshop like you are today. Last question. What phrase can remind me how important it is to stay on track to achieve my goals? I am going to stop online purchasing because I want to buy a house by the end of 2023. That's just an example. Remind yourself your why. you know what, I don't want to go out so much this week because I got to remember that at the end of this year, oh, I just remembered I'm getting married the end of this year. So I've set up financial and smart goals. So I always think about that when I'm, going to make a purchase, or I feel like I'm going to make an impulse buy. I always have to go back to that. I'm getting married at the end of this year, 2023 in December. Is this really a need? Is this a want? Is this worth it? Because I want to make sure, because me and my fiance have, made the commitment to each other that we're not going to get in debt for our wedding. We're going to pay everything cash and have money left over too for when we move into our place, our apartment, or house, whatever we end up renting, our furniture, and still have money left over for an emergency fund and start saving to eventually buy a house. Now, it's going to require a lot of commitment from both me and her, but we can do it. When you remind yourself the why, it's going to, I don't need to buy those, fancy shoes or do this or that or upgrade my car. I can wait because my goal is more important than this car, than this shoes or this bag. And at the end of the day, you want to take action. The question you should ask yourself is, what will I do? How will I do it? Will I share my plans with anyone? If so, who? Important to ask yourself all these questions. And as we wrap up this workshop, our goal and purpose with this workshop in talking about money, values, and influences is, number one, understanding where our values come from family, work, school, etc., and how they influence the financial decisions that we make. Once we're able to dive deep into that and understand that reality, we're able to make better financial decisions and set up what we call SMART goals, which SMART goals, going back to what we were saying, are goals that are specific, measurable, action-oriented, reachable, and time-bound. And very, very important to understand those things. And at the end of the day, you got to take action. What are you going to do about it? How are you going to do it? Start writing those SMART goals. We just started a brand new year. Today is your day. This year is your year to make the best year ever. But don't just have goals and dreams. Write them down. Have SMART goals. Make sure that they're reachable, that they're time bound. You got this, guys. You got it. And it's important that you watch this workshop, share with your friends and family before you start thinking about other things, like starting to invest, starting to budget, starting to all those other things. You got to start off with the foundational. My values, my influences, and how they affect my financial decisions. And honestly, by understanding this might even help some relationships, because a lot of times in relationships, we argue about who's right. We should spend our money this way. We should do it like that. Kind of like the example that I gave with Valentina and Isaiah. It's important that we understand that we both come from different backgrounds, and maybe that's what's impacting the financial decisions. Let's see how we can compromise, and maybe we do a little bit for you, a little bit for me, or whatever. At the end of the day, we're both not wrong. We have maybe we both have a good intention, right? Just like Valentina wanted to help her mom and Isaiah wanted to help his family. So those are two great things. Who wouldn't want to help their mother that's struggling? Who wouldn't want to help their family and spend quality time, right? I just want to thank you for watching this workshop. Again, my name is Josh Rincon. I am the program director here at Avance Latino. Excited to be with you guys for this workshop, and have a great rest of your day. Take care. You guys can find us on all the platforms on social media: LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, and you can reach us over email. Thank you, and have a great rest of your day.